With a blend of masculinity, a purposeful action, precocity and speed, which netted 2 juvenile Group 1s, Pride of Dubai is one of the most exciting new stallions, joining the ranks in the Hunter Valley for the 2016-17 season. Pride of Dubai has returned home to the farm where he was foaled and raised and taken the transition in his stride.
He has tremendous presence about him, like you'd expect of any high-class horse. He carries himself in a very imposing manner. You know, he's a big, strong, well put-together animal. Everything that everybody who comes to see him wants him to be. To all intents and purposes, he's a commercial breeder's ideal horse physically, and there's absolutely no doubt anybody who's been here to see him or who will come here to see him will be left with nothing but a positive impression of him.
An absolute bull of a colt, he has since birth been the pride of his breeder owner, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa Al Maktoum's global portfolio, which subsequently led to his name. He is now owned in a partnership with Sheikh Khalifa, Coolmore, the China Horse Club and Emeru Bloodstock, representing Dubai, Ireland, China and Australia respectively.
The team on the farm took great pride in his success. As the name indicates, he was a very impressive physical specimen from an early stage, and as a consequence was given a name of great significance to His Highness. But to see him go on and be as good a horse as he was as a 2-year-old, you know, it was somewhat disappointing he didn't get the opportunity to fulfill his promise as a 3-year-old, but what he did was indicative of a horse of superior ability, and you know, those are qualities that we like to see in any young stallion.
His physical and racetrack credentials aside, Pride of Dubai hails from a stallion's family. A half-brother to listed winner Alanid, Pride of Dubai is by the ill-fated Street Cry, who is set to be crowned champion Australian sire, and the page also includes French and Italian Group 1 winners Rafa and Nayara, Pretty Polly Stakes winner Chinese White, and Hilfer, just to name a few.
His dam Alanid is a black type 2-year-old by Danehill. She's a half-sister to the dam of Invincible Spirit, who is on the cusp of soaring 100 stakes winners worldwide if he hasn't done so already. Very closely related to a soaring Kodiak, who again is very high-class sire in Europe. It just oozes sire quality, and we're very much of the belief that top-class stallions traditionally tend to emerge from stallion-producing families, and his family has just produced stallions and high-class stallions with tremendous regularity.
Pride of Dubai was identified by Peter and Paul Snowden at a young age as a horse they'd like to train for Sheikh Khalifa.
Peter and Paul came up to inspect His Highness's yearlings. They were particularly taken with the Street Cry Alanid colt, who transpired to be Pride of Dubai. You know, the qualities you see in him now are very evident from an early stage. Plenty of size, scope and strength, you know, beautiful mover, good clean limbs, and he really impressed them when they came to see him. He had a fabulous temperament, has always had a fabulous temperament, and you know, obviously Peter would have had a great familiarity with the progeny of Street Cry from his time at Darley, and he just felt he was an embryonic athlete. He had a profile to develop and mature into a top-class racehorse, and so it transpired.
The colt belied the early indications he would need some time to mature by winning his first official trial on December 1, 2014, before a promising debut at Rose Hill 20 days later, running third behind 2 talented fillies.
He really surprised Peter and Paul from an early stage. He didn't get noms for any of the high-class 2-year-old races at the early entry stage. I remember speaking to Tim Stakemore very early on that spring, and him saying, I think we have a very, very good horse here. The horse that Peter and Paul have, Pride of Dubai, and as you say, for him to make his debut as a pre-Christmas 2-year-old, you know, and to be very unlucky to run third behind a stakes-winning filly in Ottoman. You know, from that stage, he had a big red flashing light on his head as a potentially very high-class horse, and so it transpired.
An 8-week let-up followed before an outstanding second in the Blue Diamond Prelude.
Well, look, it's a huge ask for any young 2-year-old in what was essentially his first prep to go to Melbourne, race the opposite way, you know, a series of hugely testing conditions in a different environment, and the footage of the race is awesome.
But Pride of Dubai starts to storm home on the outside of the Bravers, all out. Will he hang on? Oh, maybe just fell in, but Pride of Dubai's really launched late.
He was gobbling up the ground, he was beating the lip, and at that stage, if anybody didn't know it at that stage, you know, that was his moment. in which he demonstrated that he was a horse, the coming horse, the horse of the future.
A fortnight later, and Pride of Dubai lined up in the Group 1 Blue Diamond Stakes at his third start. Once again, luck in running wasn't on his side, but sometimes you don't need luck.
I had a torrid run. Most horses don't win under those circumstances. He was buffeted around like a pinball at the 300-metre mark. You know, he perfectly entitled to drop out and finish midfield under those sort of circumstances. But he picked himself up off the canvas, regathered his momentum, and absolutely flew home, and actually won it shade closely at the line.
Bremer storming up to Pride of Dubai. They come down to fight it out. They hit the line. Pride of Dubai just held on and won from Bremer.
There's special characteristics in any racehorse: natural ability, natural aptitude for racing, knowing that physically he has so much improvement in him. You just felt at that stage that he was a horse that you've really got to have something to do with if the opportunity arises.
With Coolmore and other partners buying a stake in the colt, all eyes turned to the Sydney Autumn, where Team Snowden opted to miss the Golden Slipper in favour of the sire's produce over 1,400 metres.
Goes and wins a Blue Diamond, like a horse like Redute's Choice, and you say, wow, there's a top-class 2-year-old. But to give the horse a let-up and start him first up over 1,400 metres on the back of a 6 or 7 week break in the sires, it looked very optimistic. But it was really just indicative of the regard in which Peter and Paul held the horse. They firmly believed that this was a horse that was just thriving, you know, improving out of all recognition with each passing day. And so it transpired in the sires. Nothing went in his favour. It poured rain. Racing was transferred from Saturday to Monday. You know, a good moving athletic horse like him is never really going to be able to show his best on rain affected ground. So for him to come out in the sires like that, beheaded, having been 3, 4, 5 wide through the whole race, you know, his tenacity, his bravery, his pure class, all of that was on show that day.
Regis is closing off well with Odyssey Moon and Tarquin. A great finish in the sires, and Regis bursts through the centre, and Regis races to the lead from Pride of Dubai. Then Odyssey Moon, Tarquin and Pasadena Girl. Pride of Dubai is coming back on Regis. It's Pride of Dubai lifting in the sires, and Pride of Dubai will go on and win it.
Unfortunately, Pride of Dubai's career was curtailed by injury, but his stallion career now awaits, much to the excitement of broodmare owners and his shareholders, most of all Sheikh Khalifa, who recently made the trip to Coolmore to see his pride and joy.
His Highness saw the horse like any breeder would look at their best offspring, you know, or their best produce, with tremendous pride. You know, the horse looked fantastic. We're delighted to be associated with a horse of this calibre. You know, it's a source, as I said before, of great pride for everybody who works here on the farm. You know, he was foaled here, raised here. You know, the formative stages of his career were here at Coolmore, and hopefully we can be just as lucky with his offspring as we have been with him.
Street Cry has proven to be a remarkably versatile sire, providing champions in both hemispheres, on dirt and turf, from winners of the Melbourne Cup, Breeders' Cup, Kentucky Derby, Caulfield Guineas, and of course Group 1 juvenile races. His son, Street Sense, is also making a mark at stud north and south of the equator, and with Danehill as his broodmare sire, breeders have every reason to believe Pride of Dubai can replicate the success of his sire.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's, to all intents and purposes, the heir apparent to Street Cry. It's a speed family primarily. As you say, Street Cry has been more than capable of getting versatile stock, but in a jurisdiction like Australia, it's not going to be any surprise to anybody should this horse be capable of getting mature 2-year-olds that progress again at 3 and 4. You know, he has all the hallmarks of a high-class, versatile stallion. We talk about the credentials that are necessary in any champion sire or potential champion sire. You look at pedigree, he's a beautiful pedigree. You look at physique, he really fills the eyes, impressive a horse you're likely to see. And you look at performance. I mean, how many top-class colts retire to stud as a dual Group 1 winning 2-year-old? They're few and far between, and as a consequence, this horse just represents a fabulous opportunity.